first of all, if it was a snake pit, I mean, I don't know, like, could have been horrible. And we looked at the Walter and Obma farm area, and it's not as obvious where the structures were. There's these like dips in the landscape. If you guys walk that way, you'll see them, but it's not clear exactly what they are. Then we came up this way, and Mark White is great. He's like, I'll tell you where I'd put my house, and it's right over here. And so as you'll notice, there's this depression right there.
Oh, yeah.
And our first thought was that depression is like the cellar foundation around which the house was built. But then, of course, your photo makes it very clear that the house was probably L-shaped. And that's in the sort of elbow of the L.
Okay.
Anson Buttles and another author in the mid-'70s or the early '70s actually wrote about this and said, the foundation of the house, the cellar pit of the house is still visible. There's a giant cedar tree that was in front of the house and still standing. And lo and behold, an appropriately aged cedar tree was there. And it's in that photo that you guys have.
That's totally awesome.
And when you look at, it's just like, I'm getting chills thinking about it, right? And the other thing I would say is that it appears that the house, at least the one with Bart Deswarte in it, is actually essentially outlined here, and all the cedars are growing in it. So this might have been either an earlier foundation for maybe the Capon house, or it could have been a big root cellar. It's really hard to say what that was, and it's blocked in the photo.
So the front door of the house, in the house photo.
Yeah, do you know where it is?
Would be where?
Well, if Buttles and company are right, and they're saying that this is in front of the house, the front door would have been, I'm thinking somewhere along the line, along here, or maybe there's a tree next to Bart Deswarte in that photo, a smaller tree. Maybe he's actually basically standing in front of the door, and it was on the sort of short end, but we just can't see it. It's hard to say. So Mark White, who knows this landscape really well, because he's been working for a long time and he knows landscape, he's just pointing out, like this pit right here is not an accident. That's not natural. And
this one right here.
Yeah, and talking this depression, and then talking to a couple of colleagues, and Mike, you've worked in a lot of upper Midwest archaeology, and Alex, maybe I'm curious what you think, but what's the possibility that's actually the Privy Pit?
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah, but it's awfully close.
Too close? You think too close?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house is right there.
Yeah.
Right. And if the door is facing that direction, you would want to go out towards it, right? Not go around the house.
So your privy might be pointing like your front door, looking at your privy or your back door.
Right.
And would they be inclined to have the front of the house face the barn or the lake, or?
I would think to the barn.
Yeah,
just
so
because
you can.
don't want stuff whipping off the lake.
Huh.
I mean,
Interesting.
cold. On the other hand, well, yeah.
That's what I was trying to figure out. Is are you more interested in keeping an eye on the barn, or,
Yeah, I don't know.
the beautiful view?
Yeah, I mean,
Back then they weren't worried about the view, right? They were worried about feeding themselves and.
Yeah, I guess so. Although the house is so large, like, I mean,
Yeah, it looks
you don't
pretty
get the
big.
impression that they're, kind of pioneers in your
Exactly.
one-room hut. If you
Yeah.
so like if you guys been to the Milwaukee Public Museum,
Yeah.
if you go in there, there's like the Juneau house, and it's like a one-room log cabin. And when we saw this, I'm like, that might be the cellar under a one-room building. But
I
then
think
the photo
there was
clearly
money in the family because the father, Peter Bartholomew Deswarte, which was the father of the 15, Jacob, one of them.
Sure.
His will and all his will's papers are on record.
Okay.
And he had some money.
Yeah, and it looks like it from the photo of the house. It's got a nice big brick chimney.
Yeah.
It's 2 floors. It has windows, nice fittings, which is not a 15 or 20 by 20 house there. Although this could have been Capons, and maybe there was a depression there because there was people who lived there before that.
I see. Okay.
Were the Capons first before the?
Yeah, the Capons were first, and they had a bunch of properties up there too, and they move around a bit. And we've just been calling it the Deswarte.
I think it was
area
1872
when they
bought
bought
it from the Cap.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I mean,
And then they had it until 1902, I think.
that's what I think as well. Although some maps show that 1892 Eline and Schlitz come in, if I'm
Yeah,
not
I looked at
mistaken.
some of the plat maps.
And those could be wrong too. I mean, that's the thing. It's like a mystery, right? Because
The Mimi Bird stuff says they sold it in 1902.
yeah, that's
There must be some deed or some land records
Yeah,
that
there would
made
be.
her,
yeah.
But anyway,
But
that's.
I don't know how they do it here, but you don't have to file a deed until you want to. So you can sell the land,
Okay.
and you may not file it for a year. I've seen where they've not filed it for 5.
Yeah, that could be.
So, I mean, reading it, the deed itself might provide more site
Yeah.
into it. But the other thing is, if they had a chimney, you should find they rarely remove the base of the chimney, so that's somewhere out there.
Right.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing is that these are white cedars, which are like A++ ecological restoration trees. So they really like these cedars. So if we do any excavation in this area, it's going to have to be pretty limited.
Yeah.
We're going to have to be really gentle. Because that was one of the parameters when I first approached them. I said, it's really interesting that archaeologists are interested in conservation. So are ecologists. They talk about it differently. How can we come up with some practices to make this work really well so all the sort of collective ends
I didn't realize how long white cedars live.
Yeah, I mean,
I read something like 700 years.
Yeah, they can live a long time.
It's crazy.
This one, they said, looks like it's a good 150 years old by its sort of girth there.
Yeah.
Well, because I think that photo of Bart in front of the house is like early 20th century.
Yeah, 1910-ish.
Yeah,
just the style of clothing and how old he would be. I know when he was born.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's in his 30s.
And there's no windows in the house, so it seems like it was here. Maybe abandoned.
Sitting for a while, yeah.
Which is interesting, thinking that like the Schlitz and Eline family used this for pasturing their horses. They just had an empty house on their property for a while.
It costs money to tear a house down.
It's true. So that's kind of the gist of it. And so in terms of archaeology, what I sort of proposed is that we have kind of a sector here, and I just use the property as a sector, as a Capon de Sort sector, for purposes of locating things, provenance. Then I have subsectors, which are the house, the yard, which is about where that Toro electric cart is, and then the barn. And we started with the barn in part because I thought that there would be midden back there. I thought it makes sense to midden, like a trash pile, trash dump, because it makes sense. Like, go behind the barn, chuck your crap.
Yeah.
Got a lot of information about stuff.
Yeah.
Talking with Jocelyn Boer, she's like, nah, man, that you'll find work materials back there, because they would have been throwing their trash actually quite closer to the house. And actually, Mark White pointed out that, like, if you're living up here and you got this really nice,
This is where,
you throw it down there. So future seasons of field work might include both this potential area, especially if you could do some more geophysical stuff like metal detection to kind of hone in.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to do around there. Mm-hmm. I like Deborah had a really great quote. She was like, I want someone to dig the privy. I just don't want it to be me. But at this stage, again, I mean, it would just be organic. So
that's very cool. Thank you for doing this. This is incredible. This is like a genealogist's dream.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's an archaeologist's dream to have a genealogist.
Someone basically who's decided to pick your great-great-grandparents' farm to dig up. Well, first of all, it has to be on some protected land.
Yeah,
right. So it wasn't developed.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, this is probably a brick, perhaps from the chimney.
Oh yeah, it looks like a brick, doesn't it? Yeah, sure.
Very cool. Yep. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's on the other side. As an archaeologist, you guys collected so much information, and really the photos, I think, drastically changed our interpretation, and also not just the interpretation of the landscape, but then the sampling strategy.
Right.
Because you're basically sampling blind. Until you see roughly where the barn is. Because my initial thought, just like here, was that this is the house cellar, but that's clearly not the case. I mean, that's underneath the house, right? So that's the footprint of the house. It's not the case for the house in the photo. Okay. Similarly, that like foundation over there, the barn, we thought that was the whole barn. Clearly, that's not at all the case.
Yeah, it's just part of the barn.
Part of the barn. And you guys might want to check it out, because that's all their field over there. And there's a nice trail.
Yeah.
You can see it's very cool. Different. Very different landscape. And also, something that Mark pointed out all the way back in September of 2017 is that the trees, like what's the word I'm looking for? The flora, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only had tea today, no coffee yet.
You're an archaeologist, not a biologist.
No, they're in the box.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming over. So the flora on this side of the Capon de Sort and Oma Walter property line, it actually changes. And whether that was something that people in the 1910s used the two fields differently, we don't know. But I think it's interesting. I think it's sort of multiple lines.
So
of
how
evidence.
does it change? Like what is?
Well, that Mark would know better. But you can see as you go over there that this field has been kept mowed, and there is different sort of trees on the other side, and that kind of lines up about with the property line, suggesting that the Walters and Obamas might have been using a different kind of strategy on the landscape, might have done different stuff with it, might have left it fallow sooner. There was something else about that I wanted to bring up, but I can't remember what it is. Well,
very cool, and it was all field and a few cedar trees.
Yeah, including that one.
Completely cleared. I mean, that photo just shows you can see the ridge all the way.
Yeah, all the way back there.
Yep.
Yeah, and they've been restoring it. And so the restoration project basically uses the surveyor's notes of 1835. So that was before there were any European settlers on the site.
Yeah.
And the surveyors went through and they noted what the flora was, and that's what Mark White and Schlitz Audubon Nature Center are using as their baseline for restoring the landscape. And our pits actually that we're doing, they're going to plant trees in them afterwards that are native trees to the area. One is a Kentucky coffee tree, and I thought coffee, and they're like, not that kind of coffee. And then the other one is a sugar maple. Yeah. That's good. That'll be sweet. But so the thing I wanted to point out is when we first came down here, again, they were not. I think they were very honestly unaware of where exactly and who exactly was here. There's a general list there's a lot of family names actually associated with this area, but I'd say like 80% of them seem to be speculators from the east who bought the property without ever showing up.
Pawn it off on people and saying it's great soil and
and actually what they do is they end up actually defaulting on their taxes a lot because they buy it at $40, I don't know, and then they're going to sell it at $80 and it's actually worth like $30, and they're like, why am I going to pay taxes on this? And they default it, so you get a lot of family name cycling through, which the Audubon Center knows well about. But we came out here and you can see also this ground cover has a lot of creeping Charlie and daylily and damsel's rocket, which all came with 19th century settlers.
So from the Netherlands, right?
Well, from Europe anyway. And it would have been because they were from the Netherlands.
The daylilies were a Northern European thing, right?
There you go. And so I think that's really exciting. It goes back to your question, like what do we want to get out of this? And I think one of the things that can be really useful is that when we're walking around our landscapes, it's very easy to just kind of overlook and be like, it's natural. This is just green ground cover under cedars. But actually that ground cover was brought here by somebody. And we actually know who it is. It was Capons, just Swartz, or both, And now it's all over the place and
interesting.
Angering ecologists, but that's neither here nor there. It's significant. And I think that's really important.
So if they sold this in 1902, I know that the father, Jacob, lived till 1911. The mother lived till 1917. So they moved, and she's listed as having, in her death certificate, her residence it's called like 579 20 Street, Milwaukee. And I wondered if she meant Milwaukee or somewhere further up here, but it was the town of Milwaukee, right? The town of Milwaukee and the city of Milwaukee was. So this area was still called the town of Milwaukee. So I thought, well, maybe they mean
still
here.
Exists. There's a cemetery.
Yeah.
In the
we were
town.
just I've been there, but there's no 20th Street in this immediate area. They're not numbered.
It would have been downtown. I mean, downtown.
I think the numbering system must have changed.
I don't know.
As things got more organized.
So they got rid of the farm and lived beyond. Somewhere around.
They hung
here.
around.
I mean, we just found their graves.
Oh, right on.
We went to the Union Cemetery.
Oh, sure.
Not the Union Cemetery right by Bayside Shopping Mall. There's a little Union.
Oh, I know that one.
The bigger one, which is further down.
Further down and west.
we just found their grave.
That's amazing. Well, that's also good because people have been like, well, what do we find? Bones. And I'm like, I think we know where everybody went. Who lived here, At least in the European and after.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I mean, I was thinking about the wooden shoes. You saw me the photo. As we're slopping around down here.
They would have used those shoes.
For good reason, man. Anyway.
I guess my great-grandpa sanded down the shoes and varnished them, and that's why they look so, non-used.
So,
but the story goes that Jacob, the father of this, wore them in the Netherlands.
That's amazing.
And they still exist, and my cousin's kid has them. And the story that my mom's cousin wrote about the shoes, how they almost got sold in an estate sale, launched a whole debate among my cousins on Facebook, because we got a family Facebook site, about who gets the shoes.
Oh, man, yeah. Well, I mean, this is interesting about the lack of ethnic markers in Midwestern farmsteads, because the things perhaps that were really meaningful and that would have been like ethnic markers, people kept.
Yeah.
That's that, you know.
Yeah.
They didn't toss it out. They left.
Right.
Left with
Yeah.
it,
And gave to their descendants.
Yeah.
Who then are like, who gets
Yep.
them?
Who gets them?
That's great, man. I
Yeah.
love it. So I want to check back in with these
Yeah.
guys to see what's
Thank
going on
you.
over
Thank
there.
you very much.
Thank you guys.
Unbelievable
Yeah. Are you guys
information.
going to hang around?
We're
You're
gonna
going to be here
hang for a
tomorrow?
while,
Great.
Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow too.
Cool. Very good. I'm really glad to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks.